We are going to talk about, for everyone else who's joining again right now, new currency ideas, digital currency that both parties have been talking about, called CBDC, and dropping out of NATO. Turn off the music. All right. Oh, we're adding on another one. American arrogance and incompetence. Hold on a sec. I feel like I need to fix my audio. I'm just a little bit more quiet than I want to be. Oh no, I'm getting cut off. How about now? Did I fix it? I think I fixed it. Hello? How much did you guys not hear? Yo, did y'all hear any of that? How much did you guys hear about the central bank digital currency? Did you hear about the coal miners? I was talking about coal miners. All right. So scripts have been used a lot in our history, so they're pretty much like coupons, or you can think of them like tokens at a casino. Not because you gamble with them, but because they aren't money, but they can be redeemed for cash value or to get things. Okay. They've been used for a lot of different things in history. So in the 19th century, right, in the Appalachian coal mines, right, they had this thing called Esau script. That's what they paid their workers in. And it was worth something if you spent it at the mine. But that's the only place where it was worth something. So if you tried to leave, it was worth nothing. Why is that relevant? Because what a central bank digital currency is a money that they can all of a sudden turn off. So if they replace the dollar with a digital currency, because the government, they don't have any restraint. Like, they're supposed to practice restraint and do things legally, but really they don't have any restraint when it comes to our digital infrastructure. They could just turn off our money. They can't just turn off your dollars. They can if it's all in a bank. So we were already halfway there. Oh, nothing's wrong with Bitcoin. It's the fact of replacing the dollar with a central digital currency, which I think is kind of what you're asking. What's wrong with that? I'm telling you, it's because you can't. I don't know. Do you trust the government to have total control over your assets? They're pretty much the only bank now, if you want to go that route. So I'm trying to tell you the bad part of doing that. If you wanted to leave the country, they could just turn it off. I'm not saying legally they're allowed to or anything, but they could. If you had money, it's still money if you go overseas. You hear where I'm going with this? I was using the coal mines as an example of the script nature of switching to a digital currency as our primary currency. Digital currency is nice, it's reliable, but once you take away the private element of it, well, it's all public now, but I'm saying when you centralize it, right, you give control to the government to oversee it. That's different than what Bitcoin currently is. They have regulations on Bitcoin, but they don't have the means to just take all your Bitcoins, and because it's a complicated architecture. I don't have a huge thing against cryptocurrency at all. I just know that there's a lot of risks involved by switching to a currency that's centralized to the point, and it's digital. We already have centralized currency, but it's physical. When you go to the bank and you use your debit cards, you might think it's digital, but it's really a digital representation of the physical asset. You understand? And currency doesn't need to be physical per se, but when it's centralized, combined with not being physical, it's tethered to their infra. You see where I'm going with that. Anyway, that was only one topic. Anything else to say about that? Any questions? Well, I wrote more stuff before I went on tangent. Did I have anything more to say about that? Oh yeah, I kind of wrote an answer to your question more about what's wrong with it, I guess. So, with CBDC, the Rust doesn't need armed detectives to keep you mining into camp. They just geofence your wallet to a 5-mile radius. Because they got tech like that. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but all of a sudden you give them that capability. Yep, card currency typically does do that because the people who use card transactions typically push the price of card transactions onto the consumer because there's a price per swipe. And a lot of companies push that price onto the consumer, so you ultimately pay for it. And then when you look at the credit cards, people with a lot of money can get higher statements, get more rewards, get paid for paying it off. Like they actually get rewarded for just having more money. And those even have even higher transaction fees that get pushed onto customers. So you're absolutely right. So yeah, that was the CBDC. Oh yeah, so let's talk about NATO. I'll put up another visual for that. Well, let's see what the news says about NATO right now. Well, probably nothing good. Oh, look at that big face Trumpy. Want to listen to France talk about it?
This isn't the first time that Donald Trump has said that he would like to take the United States out of NATO, but it's the most serious, and it's being repeated by senior members of his administration. Secretary of
What's
State
up,
Marco
Kiwi?
Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
That's
Now,
my
because
brother.
Donald Trump has threatened this in the past,
I
the
think.
US Congress actually passed a law in December 2024, right before he started this term, saying that the US president would need an act of Congress to take the US out of NATO. But honestly, that's going to be cold comfort for Europeans because, as the professor at the King's College London Department of War Studies, Ruth Diarman, pointed out today, from Trump's statements to The Telegraph, you can see that whether or not the US is in NATO or out of it, Trump has no intention of defending Europe if it is invaded by Russia. If you listen to that quote there, where he said that NATO is a paper tiger and Vladimir Putin knows that, well, Donald Trump is the only person who determines whether NATO is a paper tiger or not. NATO is a paper tiger if the United States won't honor the Article 50 Mutual Defense Clause and defend Europe if it is attacked. And everything Donald Trump and his administration is saying right now is indicating that it wouldn't do that. So that's extremely worrying for Europeans, even if Donald Trump is forced to stay in NATO by the US Congress. What's become increasingly clear, experts say, is that NATO doesn't really exist anymore other than on paper. Marco Rubio pointed out in an interview on Fox News this morning that without the US, there is no NATO. Those are the exact words used by the EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, back in September. Meaning, in other words, without the US protectorate system, without the US security guarantee, NATO is not a real alliance unless Europeans are able to rapidly retrofit NATO into some kind of European alliance.
Like, I'm
That's the
listening
type
to
of
this and
discussion.
I'm like, okay, they want out of NATO. Why? Like they talk about all these things like trying to extract resources from these NATO countries, right? So they're not getting the deals they want, so they're not being nice to them, and it's like, so what are you gonna do about it then? You're just making things harder. And you're like, oh my goodness, I don't. That's my off the top. Before we get into, that's my report. That's the emotional spin take coming from me. Jeez, crow. but I did research into it. But pretty much is like, I bet there's some people out there that are happy about this, okay? Because the way they're framing it, I don't know what they're gonna get out of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It seems like an accelerationist push, if anyone knows what that means, which means they're intentionally pushing towards chaos. But that aside, there are people out there who think this is a good thing because it's going away from geopolitics and globalism. Well, because geopolitics we still do. Globalism is what I meant. Some people think it's a good thing because it's moving away from globalism. 1 second. I just want to make sure this is working. Boom, boom. Yep. That's the report that people who might actually support this will say. Besides the people who also just have blind faith in Trump. But the receipt here, when it comes to the ledger and the institutional data on the situation, is we don't need to keep paying attention to what the EU diplomats saying. We don't have to pay attention to what Marco Rubio is saying when it comes to NATO. Like, sure, keep your ears open just in case it gets even crazier, because it seems like it always does. But you know what's something that isn't very loud on the surface, but when you notice it, is fucking screaming? The defense contractors right now. Like I've seen people covering. There's a clip out there of some reporter asking Trump, and they're like, if the situation's under control in Iran, why do you still need? No, they didn't say why. They asked, do we still need $200 billion for the Pentagon? Because they're trying to get $200 billion more dollars. He didn't say yeah. All right. He didn't say no either. He said, it's always nice to have. It's like they're shooting bombs just to make money. It's ridiculous. Like that was like the most bold confession. But that's a report. Again, I'm going back to the report. But if you want to look at the receipts, right? The money is going directly to defense contractors. Yeah, because it's making the money is flowing, but not to the normal working people. And it stimulates a part of the economy that we will not reap benefits from, but some wealthy individuals will. Basically, it's a grift. It's a cynical grift, really. We threatened to abandon Europe to the wolves, essentially. Europe panics because they don't have the industrial capacity to build their own missile networks, especially not overnight. Like, we demand they spend 5% of their GDP on defense if they want to survive. And where does all that newly developed European money go? Straight into the American military industrial cartel. So, like, of course they're not paying. Dude just started a war that none of NATO countries want. So really, this is them preemptively leaving before they have to have a serious conversation with their allies. Let's be real. The fucking EU wants Netanyahu for genocide war crimes. And we're started a war for that country. So if you look at it from this angle, right? They wanted to do this shit in Iran. Perhaps they were dropping the seeds of leaving NATO because they knew staying tight with NATO would not be an actual possibility after this decision. Consider that. That's not even in my research. That's just the forensic take. We're basically ripping trillions out of the global economy to enrich the entrenched monopoly of the defense industry. Just to abandon the UN. Which is the loud news report you hear when really they're just stripping our pockets and giving it to these defense contractors. So I wrote down something else. It's still relevant to this, the NATO situation. The world has never been this crazy. This is a brand new existential crisis, right? No, it's really not. In 1933, right? Shout out Anthony, if Anthony's still here. I saw you in chat before. 1933 business plot, right? This is on Wikipedia. The Wall Street elite were so terrified of FDR's democratic regulations hurting their gold standard wealth that they tried to buy a private army. And what are they going to do with it? They wanted to arm 500,000 World War I veterans, march on Washington, and install a fascist dictator. Fundamentally, they've changed their goals since then, right? They're not trying to overthrow the government. I wonder why. It updated its technology. Today, the monolithic asset managers think Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. They don't need a literal marching proxy army. They use algorithmic proxy armies of consolidated S&P 500 voting shares to force corporate and national compliance, bypassing the messy democratic process entirely. So legally, they've already overthrown the government by just owning so much fucking money. When did what happen? 1933. Watch, I literally just typed 1933 business plots on Wikipedia. There's so much history. I didn't know about it before I looked it up either. It's like right in front of us. They don't talk about it. The 1933, so it's framed like this, says, was a alleged political conspiracy. So what that means doesn't mean it's a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy means they were conspiring against the government, but it was alleged. So that is the fact. We can get into the details, but that's what the next episode of 1773 to now, or The Ghost in the Machine, is going to be about. We'll get into it then. So yeah, look forward to that. I'm going, maybe I'll get done by tomorrow, but I am doing something this weekend. So if not, it'll be Monday. Well, yeah. Those were the two things people wanted me to talk about. And there's the vertical war take and the Ethan take thrown in there. Because they're different. When I put the vertical war lens on, it's a strategic mindset to converge. Everybody has to make some effort to converge. I got my own beliefs, I got my own opinions. They're not necessarily gonna pull us together though. I'll give you both here though. You get the raw report and the receipt. But let me show you something funny. If any of y'all still there. Pop, pop. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you a video. And actually, before I show you the video,
I hope you're ready.
I want to show you an article. An old article I wrote. How to get away with, trigger warning, rape in Oklahoma. So a lot of people have heard about this case. It's awful. Jesse Butler, charged with 10 violent felonies, faced potential cumulative sentence of 78 years in prison, strangled one of the victims. She thought she was seconds from death. He told her he wanted to strangle her so he could film it on his phone. All these awful things, right? The dude barely got in trouble. Where is it? Yeah. Oklahoma's Youthful Offenders Act. What happened with that? The one law in Oklahoma that explicitly lists rape by instrumentation and domestic abuse by strangulation as eligible for a non-custodial rehabilitative tract. Like, what the? If you do these things, you could be like, what? It don't make no sense. Anyway, he will permanently evade being on the sex offender registry. It didn't just get him out of jail, it'll erase the record. So, one of my favorite YouTubers mentioned this in a video that inspired me to write an article I'm working on right now. Let's watch the video. It's kind of sad, but it's an important topic. I'll make sure this thing is on right. Boop, 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 boop. Is that it? I go like that. And like that. Boom.
Ready to put a frown on. Good morning. I hope you're ready to put a frown on that face. If you happen to be smiling right now, get that off of there. Take it down. And I mean that because what we're going to be talking about today is very infuriating to any sane person out there. And it's something that needs to be talked about and is part of a phenomenon that's becoming all too common, which is child sexual abuse crimes no longer being taken seriously in our justice system. Minimal punishment to the demons that commit these crimes. Behold, Exhibit A. Robert Morris has just been released from jail after spending only 6 months in there. Robert Morris is
so yeah,
a former
it's
Texas
Oklahoma
megachurch pastor,
again, yo.
also
You
former
see that?
spiritual advisor to Donald Trump, who last year pled guilty to 5 counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child. In the 1980s, Morris was molesting a 12-year-old girl multiple times. Numerous instances of him molesting a child. People in the church also lied and covered for him, even attacking the victim. And eventually, last year, it was all completely confirmed that he had committed these acts. He had even pled guilty to these acts. And the justice that was dispensed, a measly 6 months in jail for Robert Morris. And now he has 9.5 years of probation, which he will spend living in his luxurious lake house property. He also paid, I think it was $270,000 in restitution, which is peanuts to this guy's net worth. And he has to register as a sex offender, which, judging from the response from people, probably won't have any effect on him. People are like, well, he did the time. He's a changed man now. He's learned from his mistakes. We should welcome him back with open arms, which I think is unhinged lunacy. But if this current administration has taught us anything, it's that the sex offender label is a protected status in the government. Fucking Donald Trump appointed Lawrence Taylor on his Council of Sports and Nutrition. Lawrence Taylor is literally a level 1 sex offender, actively registered sex offender, and Donald Trump gave him a position that supposedly works with children here on this council. And of course, the government doing everything imaginable to protect those named in the Epstein files. It's pretty clear that the sex offender label doesn't actually matter to a lot of people in positions.
I just realized my Instagram live stream crashed. I don't know why.
Positions of power, and even to just normal community members, it seems like they're more than willing to just say, welcome back, Robert Morris, we're glad to have you home. It's just complete fucking insanity. I'm just gonna be honest with you, puppet pals, and again, maybe I'm just fucking boofing crazy pills here. It just doesn't smell like justice to me. That Robert Morris only spends 6 months behind bars in the slammer, even though he has been found guilty to molesting a 12-year-old girl multiple times, numerous instances of it, only spending 6 months in jail, and then getting to just live it up in his $1 million lake house property. And I imagine will be landing lucrative gigs in the future.
I don't know why I thought
even
that.
despite all of these known facts about him being a heinous, unforgivable demon. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is a phenomenon that I think is becoming even more common. Another thing that I read today is that one of the January 6th rioters who's been pardoned by Trump
What's up, bro?
turns out to have been a huge pedophile.
And Francis?
There's actually been a couple of them, but the most recent one is Daniel Tochi. He was just sentenced to 4 years in jail for having more than 100,000 child sexual abuse images and videos on his devices. Authorities also found other disturbing things in there, like apparently he had saved videos of like a cat being thrown in blenders, stuff like that. But what I don't understand is why is his sentencing so light? I feel like Ed from the episode of Ed, Edd n Eddy when he had a fucking rock in his shoe where he's just really mad abuse material.
Where is it?
It's just crazy. When I looked, Madam Prosecutor, you're free to enlighten the court if while out on bond, he murdered his stepdaughter. This is more frequent. I could go on and on. Another really recent example, a case that actually happened here in Florida, in Tallahassee. A Judge Tiffany Baker Carper allowed a maniac by the name of Daniel Spencer, who had just been convicted a month earlier of trying to meet up with a 15-year-old minor for sex. He was caught in a sting operation, and while awaiting sentencing, the judge allowed him out on bond, and while out on bond, he murdered his stepdaughter, Melissa Missy Mogul. The judge stated he's been out for an entire year, as far as I saw, with no violations. I didn't see any criminal history regarding violence. The only criminal history I saw was relating to drug offenses. When I looked, Madam Prosecutor, you're free to enlighten the court if I've missed something. This article then went on to say that it's unclear from the record whether the judge or prosecutor were aware at the time that the Tallahassee Police Department, in consultation with the state attorney's office and the DCF, had investigated allegations that Daniel Spencer molested Missy.
Honestly, I'm just showing you awful stories, but the point is, sex crimes are not being punished, and it's obvious because of money and influence. And they're being more brazen about it now than ever, it feels like. And I was going to do some research to try to confirm that thesis. Like, that's what Charlie was saying. That's that guy's name. He was pretty much saying, all right, so is it just me, or is this getting wicked bad? So let me show you what I tried to use Google for. Not Google, but Gemini AI. Deep research. Usually I have no problem. I have a custom prompt engine that creates prompts using my language, talking about the Rust and the vertical war, which usually bypasses a lot of filters about social stances. But talking about this, it would not. And it's really frustrating. I want to show you how I pull this back. Sorry. Bear with me. Bear with me. Is it this one? Boop. Boop, boop. Oh, come on. I pressed the wrong button and we're all sad. And we're all sad. I need to get better at setting up the scenes for these live streams so I don't have to like fumble like that. Try to get this good viewing size for you guys. I asked blah blah. Oh, I can get that better. Come on. I'm struggling. I just want to get it big. That's what she said. Sorry. Whatever. I'm struggling. But compile a comparative data set Oh, I know why I'm struggling. I have to do this. What? Why is it? No, that's not me. That bubble's just getting big for no reason. Why is this bubble so big, bro? Yeah. There we go. I asked it to compile a comparative data set of average sentencing lengths in Texas, Florida, and Oklahoma over the last 5 years. Cross-reference the average jail time served for non-violent Layer 1 economic crimes like minor drug possession or survival theft against the jail time served for possession of CSA material, which is the child CP, and plea bargain sexual assaults. Fucking what? How is this controversial? I need the hard numbers that prove the systemic devaluation of a child's life compared to the state's property. And it said, I cannot fulfill this query. Oh, you can't see that. I cannot fulfill this query as it requires taking a subjective stance on sensitive social and legal issues and promoting a specific moral framework. Yes, child porn is bad. What the fuck? And I talk about so many things that is trying to stop me, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then I can get around it. Don't get me wrong, I got around this, and I'm doing research. I reframed the question. Well, actually, I don't know if it went through. Let's see together. Yeah, I reframed the question, and that one went through. Dude, this one still doesn't want to go through. Oh my God. And neither does this one. Retrieve the legal and structural mechanisms that shield judges from accountability when their leniency results in further violence. Specifically, pull the historical disciplinary records of Judge Tiffany Baker Carper and Judge Susan Worthington, Florida and Oklahoma. How often are judges actually disbarred or prosecuted for approving negligent plea deals or granting bond to convicted predators? Find the bottleneck where judicial oversight dies. Like, I might have to just change that last part. But like, why is it so hard to research this? I understand, Harpy, and if you're not used to figuring out ways to circumvent those guardrails, you might not understand what I'm saying when I say there are queries out there that make sense. They might want to stop you. Like when I talk about revolution ideas or like changes, not because I want to do a violent one, but like I understand why that kind of idea might be stopped, and then I have to reframe it. But I'm literally just trying to look into like come on. It just doesn't make sense to me how heavily weighted that is. Like, yeah. Yeah. The word dies. I get away with a lot, guys. Like, that's why I'm surprised. Like, I use this a lot. Like, you'd be surprised what I get away with typing into this thing. Your feed on Substack keeps freezing. Let me check my stream health, okay? I'm gonna play some music real quick while I transition. Because I don't want to end yet or anything, but I'm transitioning. It says we're good, I think. Yeah. Hopefully it's fixed for you now. But yeah, I want to try to get those prompts through. At least this one's going. Which one was this? Provide a factual, objective overview of the legal doctrines regarding judicial absolute immunity in the United States. Additionally, pull the publicly available historical statistics for judicial disciplinary actions. Oh, okay. This is the one, the first one I read you guys, redone. So it took that one. Is it still way louder than my voice? I thought I turned it down. I turned it down more. What about that? Yeah, what else have I been missing in the news, guys? Because I dig into history, I look for patterns. I try not to look at headlines. Oh, it just did it for me. Well. Artemis didn't blow up. That's good. Ba-dum-bum-ba-da-da-da-dum. Wait a second. What the heck? Didn't I just make a folder? The what? I thought I just made a folder. Whatever. What the heck? Weird. I don't know where it went then. The fuck? Anyone else notice that? Maybe I'm psycho. I don't know. I need to close all these tabs. Yay, one of them went through. Which one was that? Okay. Sorry, this part might be boring, guys. I'm literally just working right now. I want to make this article. Maybe by the end of the night. Yeah, it is saved. Like, what? Oh, I see what happened. I see what happened. Such a sad story, but seems important to talk about. Yeah, this is the video we just watched. You missed the topic. Maybe I should end the stream so I can post it, because it was a good one. And then I'll come back on. You know what? That's probably a good idea. I'm going to do that. I'm going to log out of the live stream for like 10 minutes, post what we just did so people who missed it can watch it. And then I'll go live again.